Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I hope you all are as excited as we are. Before we get started, I would like for all the members of the Gainesville subcommittee to come forward so you can see who they are. They have worked so hard for the last 2 years. I don't think. Can you all hear me now? I don't think the mic is working. All the members of the Gainesville subcommittee, please stand. Yvette Carter, you're sitting. Would you all please, let's give our committee a hand for working so hard for 2 years. Thank you, committee. Thank you, committee. Well, today we are almost at the end of our journey with what we started 2 years ago, and we are all excited that Gainesville Subcommittee did an excellent job along with all the other committees. I don't think this mic is. Okay, he's fixing it. Okay, while they're working on the mic, I think everyone can hear me. Can you all hear me? Okay, we are not going to hold up the program because of the mic. Hopefully, it'll get it ready in a few minutes. But today we're excited to do this. We're happy to have our distinguished speaker here today, Mrs. Michelle Duster, who is the great granddaughter of Ida B. Wells. She will be in a minute. She's here, but I think she stepped out for a minute. And to all the women, History Month, because certainly we are a big part of the history. And you can look in this room, we have more women celebrating with us today than we do men, but we love the men as well. So happy Women's History Month to all of you. At this time, we're going to have Sola and her husband, Ayoka, and her wife, Ayoka, to come and do the libations. Now, in the African culture, this is the first thing done. So read up on it a little bit when you get home. It's called the libations, and they will come and do it for us at this time. Thank you. Okay, they got it working. Angela, if you need it.
Libation. Now we come in to pray. And we come to pray the old way. I have in my hands, in the left and the right, 2 bottles of strong drink. It has sweet aroma. We're going to pour it. It represents balance, ma'at. Left is equal to right, right is equal to left. White is equal to black, black is equal to white. heaven and earth, everything balanced. That's the reason why. It represents the waters above and the waters below. So to go on. Now I have nothing on, which means I'm before you, the elders. So in Africa, we remove our shoes and bow when we are going to greet an old man, an old woman, a king or a queen, and we remove our sandals too. That's the reason why we do what we do today. So it's a sign of honoring our ancestors. Menashi me, menashi ho, nima ho, nama ho. Ikago, hey.
Amen.
Ikago, hey.
Amen.
Ikago, hey.
Amen.
Twa manyaba.
Yeah.
Kwa je wagbe ko me.
Yeah.
Twa o manyaba.
Yeah.
Waboma wo.
Yeah.
Waboma wo.
Yeah.
Waboma wo.
Yeah.
Creator, both male and female. You are the owner of the heavens. You are the owner of the earth.
Yeah.
You are the only creative energy from all 7 cardinal directions of the very universe that came from your potter's wheel. Oh, Bama Wokley, here's our drink that shows that you are both male and female, androgynous. We are pouring it as a sign of worship to you that you made everything come to being.
Yeah.
O Almighty Creator, as we call upon you, you have your angels that you send to tell them go, and they go. You tell them come, and they come. When you say nobody, when you say yea, that's it. When you say nay, nobody say nay. Therefore, we call them to come and partake in it. Eh, badi adre baiko no nui. Ate kwabi baiko no nu. Na kolo baiko no nu. Akoti adumle ko baiko nu. Ninsem baiko e. Dongen baiko. Agbola lo baiko no nu. Na ke jomo jowo. All your angels. What we are saying is that all of them should come and partake in this sweet aroma. It should meet their nose, that the kind of blessings that we need, it should come to both of any one of us here. Whatever we're doing, let us prosper. Yeah. And today, as we are here, we say EJI, Equal Justice Initiative. Equal Justice Initiative. The left drink, the right drink, balance. So equal justice. Oh, Almighty Creator, we ask you that this very equal justice that we are calling upon, let it not come from our mouth, let it come from our heart, let it come from the doings, let it come from what, when we write, let it be justice. When we sleep, let it be justice. When we drink, let it be justice. When we eat, let it be justice. When we laugh, let it be justice. And when we are settling cases, it should be based on justice. Yeah. Now, if now we say reconciliation, we equally send this reconciliation from our hearts. We therefore ask heavens to grant us real reconciliation. Yeah. We want the earth to grant us real reconciliation. Yeah. Let this reconciliation come from our hearts. Yeah. Let there be green reconciliation, black reconciliation, white reconciliation, black reconciliation, heaven reconciliation, down reconciliation. It should be reconciliation in action, not only by mouthing. We thank you very much. Let the east bless us. Yeah. Let the west bless us. Yeah. Let the north bless us. Yeah. Let the south bless us. Yeah. Let the heaven bless us. Yeah. Let the earth bless us. Yeah. Let the wind bless us. Yeah. Let the sun bless us. Yeah. And all that's in America today, that is warning from Ukraine to everywhere. Oh heavens, let all these things come to dead end. Yeah. And grant us the victory that we are working for. Yeah. We thank you very much that this very thing that we are coming to do, should there be somebody from outside, left or right, coming with evil intention, let that person run away and be scattered in 7 different directions. We thank you very much that what we've asked, you've done it for us. And all those who are lynched, we are now asking you, wherever you are, now you are 12 with one unknown. We ask you that with this sweet aroma, we let it meet your nose. And let us really unite. Let yesterday take care of itself. But now today we've met. As we know, you are all around. So come and bless it, and let us unite and unite and unite. Thank you very much. Chwa, 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 omanyaba.
Yo, 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 yo.
We thank you all so very much for the libations, and they have become a part of all the ceremonies throughout the county that we've had. Let's give them another hand. Thank you. At this time, we will be favored with Lift Every Voice and Sing uh, by the young people led by Miss Angela Terrell, Caring and Sharing Learning School Fine Arts students.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising
caring and sharing fine arts students. Thank you all under the direction of Ms. And alumni. And alumni. And alumni. If you listen to that song, as African Americans, we sing it at just about all of our events. And today we can truly say, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way. And we are just delighted as African Americans to say that. We have come a long way. However, we have a long way to go. Thank you. Before we have the invocation, I'm going to acknowledge all the members of the Gainesville Remembrance Project from other cities. Will you please stand? I see quite a few of you here today from the other cities. Alachua, Newberry. Thank you all. We have been doing this all over the county. So thank you so very much. And we would like to also acknowledge all of our elected officials who are here today. Will you all please stand that you all took time in this rainy weather. All right. We have the Tina Certain from the school board, Mayor Williams from Newberry, High Springs. We have Commissioner Harvey Ward, and we have Commissioner Brown, and she's also a member of our, she leads Alachua subcommittee. Thank you all for sharing this day with us. And we have Mary Alford right here. She gave me some wonderful strawberries at our last event, and I just told her that I have strawberries on the plant she gave me. So thank you all for coming and sharing this wet morning with us. Ken is going to be coming later on to do something. At this time, we will have the invocation by Reverend Carl Smart, who has guided us along the journey as we've been doing all the projects with EGI.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fox. May we bow, may we pray. Father God, we pause right now, beginning of this beautiful, beautiful ceremony, just to give you thanks. Thank you for this day, another day that your hands have made. Thank you for blessing us, O Lord, with life and health and strength. Thank you for blessing us with these young folk, O God, who come and think it not robbery to lift their voices in song, O God, and praise. We just thank you right now. We ask your blessings upon this ceremony, each and every participant, O God. Our speaker who has come from a long way. We ask that you bless her, O God, and just give her the right words to say that will inspire, that will encourage this community. And Father God, we thank you for our Gainesville subcommittee. We thank you for Alachua County Remembrance. We thank you for truth and reconciliation. We pray that, oh God, you help us to accept that which is truth as we move toward reconciliation. Help us as a nation, oh God. We lift up now, we pause now, oh God, to lift up the families and those in Ukraine who are suffering the atrocities of war. We lift up the children, the senior citizens, the refugees, those who are fleeing for their lives, and those surrounding nations, even the people of Russia. We ask that you bless them, oh God, now. We ask that you help protect them and give our leaders the wisdom to move toward peace versus war. And Father, bless this historical marker, that it might be a reminder to us all of our history. Let it be a reminder to all who stop by and read the words on the marker to remember the atrocities of the past, but look forward to peace and working together in unity in the future. We thank you right now. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. And all in agreement said amen Amen.
Beautiful words of inspiration. Reverend Smart, we thank you so very much. At this time, we are going to have the welcome of the Honorable Chuck Chestnut is not here today, but we're going to bring the former chair of the Alachua County Commission, Commissioner Ken Cornell.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. I am not Chuck Chestnut. For those of you that know Chuck, I've got a little bit more hair. He has a lot more height. And so on behalf of the entire Alachua County Commission, Commissioner Chestnut, Commissioner Alford, Chair Wheeler, who had to leave, and Commissioner Prizia, I bring greetings. We started this journey in Alachua County, gosh, a little over two years ago. And as we are making our way around the county, it is so wonderful to see that even with the rains and the weather, that we have a packed house to recognize this important marker and this important event. And with that, you know, you'll hear later from Dr. Houchin, who's become a big part of our Alachua County community, and we're very grateful that she's chosen to help us. But what I would say is, in today's society, truth is at a premium. Truth is at a premium. And so as we recognize our truth and reconciliation process and we listen to the words from our leaders today, I want to thank you for being here, and on behalf of all of Alachua County, greetings. And this guy can pray, but you should hear him sing.
Thank you, Commissioner. No singing this morning. Leave the singing to the young folk and to Ms. Terrell. I'm Carl Smart. I'm Deputy County Manager of Alachua County, but I also serve as pastor of Mount Zion AME Church in Hawthorne, Florida, and it's just a pleasure to work with the Alachua County Community Remembrance Project and be here today. We're actually standing in for Commissioner Charles Chestnut. Of course, he wanted to be here, but Saturday is a funeral day. You know, unfortunately, it's what it is. But we are here today for the dedication and the unveiling of Gainesville's second historical marker to commemorate the lynching of black people in this city back in the day. The first marker was placed on the west lawn of the County Administration Building in downtown Gainesville. The Board of County Commissioners decided that that doesn't represent what we see in our community today. And it was taken down in 2017, and we were thrilled that that was the case. And may I be a little bit premature in just saying that soon replacing Old Joe should be a statue of one of our own, the late Dr. Patricia Hilliard Nunn. And you can thank your Board of County Commissioners for this great decision. The Gainesville Subcommittee, under the leadership of Mrs. Evelyn Fox, is to be commended for making this occasion a reality. In addition to the first historical marker that I mentioned downtown, the group has also completed a soil collection ceremony, with a beautiful ceremony, a racial justice essay contest where they partnered with the Alachua County School District and the Library District last year, and partnered with all the schools in the Gainesville area, and they did a wonderful, wonderful essay contest, and a number of our students received scholarships from EJI. So we're very proud of you, Gainesville Subcommittee. You've already recognized the members of the Alachua County Community Remembrance Project, but let me just remind you that we've got several subcommittees in different communities around Alachua County. In addition to Gainesville, Alachua, Noonanville, Vice Mayor Shirley Green Brown, would you please just wave your hand or stand? There she is. And Reverend Deborah Sermons worked closely with her and her husband, the Reverend John Brown. Archer, Ms. Lizzie Jenkins, who works a lot with the Rosewood Foundation. I'm not sure if she's here today, but Ms. Lizzie Jenkins. High Springs is headed by Ms. Valoria Kelly. There she is. And Reverend Williams over here. Thank you both. And Micanopy is Miss Gianna. We call her Gigi, Miss Gianna Williams. She back there. And we have a group out in the Monteoka Gordon Lacrosse area. And you heard from Minister Ayoka Sowala. I think they had to leave, but they were here also. In Newberry, you have the concerned citizens of Newberry, and of course their mayor, Mayor Jordan Marlowe. I don't see Mayor Marlowe, but you can be assured they're very busy out there. And then lastly, but not least, Waldo, Hawthorne, Campville, Rochelle, the Reverend Mary Jackson is the leader out in that community. Would you please give her a hand? They had a soil collection ceremony just a couple of weeks ago. It was wonderful, a wonderful job. But our partner who helped create this program, who constantly provides the expertise and who ensures that the markers are built and delivered on time, they actually pay for the markers. The Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. And we can't thank them enough for that partnership under the direction of their founder, their executive director, Mr. Brian Stevenson. And his two very special representatives that are here today, Mrs. Brianna Lampkin and Ms. Kiana West are here. We meet with them regularly, and they just love our community. They've been doing so much. It's hard to even think about how we can show them full appreciation. In addition to EJI, we are fortunate to have local historians who contribute to this effort, including the late Dr. Patricia Hilliard Nunn, and her husband, Dr. Kenneth Nunn, has been very helpful, very supportive also. She was instrumental in doing the early research and providing the impetus for starting the program. Also, Dr. Paul Ortiz and the Samuel Proctor Group at the University of Florida. And last, also, Mrs. Karen Kirkman, who's a historian and a member of the Alachua County Community Remembrance Project. I'm fortunate to serve as a liaison, but I've got a couple of partner liaisons that are always there on the spot. Miss Jackie Davis, our community liaison. Would you please stand? Jackie, come on, stand, Jackie. Don't be shy. And also Dr. Deidre Houchin, who's our equity and outreach, community outreach manager. The Alachua County Community Remembrance Project focuses on researching and commemorating these horrific events in our county's history, our city's history, and facilitating discussions on racial justice. It's not to cause any hard feelings. It's not to point fingers. It is to promote healing and recovery from some serious injustices that occurred in our past. These are certainly difficult decisions, difficult discussions, difficult conversations that we have, and we have to approach them with sensitivity to everyone. We are fortunate as a part of the Community Remembrance Project to have a trauma-informed committee that helps keep us grounded. Sometimes we just have to stop in the middle of a conversation and take a deep breath. And fortunately, I know Brittany Coleman is here from Trauma Informed. Brittany, stand please so we can see you. Are there any other members of the Trauma Informed Committee? Yes, please. They help us to get through these difficult conversations. So today, the occasion, if Commissioner Chestnut was here, he would say this is probably what we call a Sankofa moment, if you will. Sankofa moment, where we look back at our history, look back at our past, and we learn from it. Someone said, if you fail to remember your history, you are doomed to repeat it. We don't want to do that. So we're looking back at the truth as we move forward to reconciliation. Thank you all for being a part of this great occasion. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Smart, for the occasion and recognizing everyone who worked so hard to make this a reality. But I'm going to pause for a minute. If you don't keep up with what's going on around us, there was an election in Micanopy, and history was made. And Brianna was elected the first African-American female. Brianna, would you please stand? We are just so proud. They elected 2 African-American women to serve on Micanopy, of all the places in Alachua County. She was elected. We're so excited to have you making history. Woohoo! Yeah. In Women History Month, Brianna, you made a milestone step. We are just so proud of you and the other black commissioner. I don't think she's here today, but thank you for the courage that you had to step out in Micanopy, Florida, and won that election. Thank you so much for having the courage. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to have a song by the Caring and Sharing Fine Arts Academy. And while they're coming, I think Jackie probably sent this note that there is an essay contest that's ongoing for students of Newberry, Santa Fe, and Hawthorne High School. So the essay contest is still going on. Thank you.
Soloists go to the mic. Good morning. I just want to say on behalf of our founders, Dr. Simon Johnson and Ms. Verna Johnson, and our principal, Mr. Curtis Peterson, that Caring and Sharing is delighted to be here to celebrate. Knowledge is power, and to have our young ones here to live this history is something that will be an everlasting memory and a lasting impression on their hearts. We were asked to do one selection, but one is going to move right into the other, because in honor of those who were lynched and were not treated so fairly, we're going to sing Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around. And then we're going to keep that fight song going that was started during the days of the civil rights, and we will be accompanied by our violinists on We Shall Overcome. Our soloist for today on Ain't Gonna Let Nobody Turn Me Around is our 5th grader, Aaliyah Henderson.
marching into freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching into freedom land. Sometimes I feel discouraged and feel no hope within. But then I count my blessings and happy thoughts begin. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching into freedom land. So you may be discouraged and feel no hope within. So just count your many blessings and let the happy thoughts begin. Don't you let nobody turn you around, turn you around, turn you around. Don't you let nobody turn you around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching into freedom land. Just keep on walking, keep on talking, marching into freedom land.
Mask off just for singing. Mask off just for singing. We're going to start with just the instruments, no singing yet. Ready? Voices, we shall overcome. Ready, sing.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe.
everyone take a bow.
Aren't they wonderful? Thank you, Ms. Terrell, for devoting so much of your time and life. Okay, and thanks to Ms. Thomas, her first grade teacher and assistant. Thank you, young people. You all are just wonderful, wonderful. Before Sharon Burney comes to introduce the speaker, I was given a note to let you know that the city is a part of this, and the people of Parks and Recreation has done an excellent job in doing everything that we asked them to do today. So we're going to ask Commissioner Harvey Ward.
I see my former colleague, Helen Warren, in the audience here, and I remember the night at the Gainesville City Commission when she made a motion that we passed unanimously to become a part of the Truth and Reconciliation process back in 2017 or 18, and I don't want to let that go by unnoticed. So applause if we can for Commissioner Helen Warren. I'm glad that we're able to offer this on land that is part of the city of Gainesville, which we're all part of. It's our land, and I'm appreciative that we're able to do it here. But on a more personal note, it occurred to me when Assistant County Manager Smart was speaking earlier, talking about Old Joe. I grew up here in Gainesville, and I remember when I was about their age. And once again, some more applause for caring and sharing. They did a wonderful job. I remember when I was about their age, asking my elders, who is that a statue of? What is that? And nobody could give me an answer. And I would always ask every now and then, who is that? Why do we have a statue of this person? Who is it? And nobody could tell me because it wasn't a person. It was just a generic statue that was made in a factory somewhere and appeared in dozens or hundreds of towns across the South in the post-Reconstruction era. And what I came to understand and learn is that not only is that not a person, not a real human being, it was a symbol. It was a symbol of hate and oppression and violence, not an actual person, but a virus, so to speak, that infected our community and communities across our nation. I'm so pleased that in 2017, I was able to watch that come down. So Old Joe was not a person, but Tony Champion was a person. Andrew Ford was a person. Alfred Daniels was a person. Lester Watts was a person. Many other hundreds, maybe thousands of real flesh and blood victims of that hatred and oppression and violence in our community. And I say that because truth and reconciliation matter. And if we don't tell the truth about these folks and about Old Joe, then we can't reconcile. And we can't be a great city, a great community, without being honest and without seeking reconciliation. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you all so much for being here today.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner. I think we have some members of Lester Watt's family here. He was one of the lynching victims. Would that family please stand and be recognized? Don't we have some people from Lester Watt's family? Yes. Thank you so much, and thank you all for coming to share this with us. At this time, Sharon Burney is going to come and introduce her friend. And because of Sharon, we were able to get Mrs. Michelle Duster. So at this time, Sharon is coming. Thank you.
Good morning. The daughter of Maxine, the granddaughter of Alfreda, the great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells. Michelle Duster hails from the south side of Chicago, Illinois. A professor, author, historian, public speaker, and crusader of social justice. She received her Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from Dartmouth College and a Master of Arts in Media Studies from the New School in New York City. She has written, edited, and contributed to 16 books. The most recently released this year is Ida B. Wells' Voice of Truth. She has appeared on MSNBC, CNN, CBS, and CW. She has written articles for Time, Essence, The Daily Beast, HuffPost, and the North Star. She was instrumental in the development of the Ida B. Wells Barbie doll, which was a part of Mattel's Inspiring Women's Barbie Doll series, which was released in January 2022. And if you want to get one, you're going to have to really search high and low for it. She has created several public history projects: On the Wings of Change mural in Chicago, the Ida B. Wells National Monument, the Ida B. Wells Way, the Ida B. Wells Historical Marker, the Ida B. Wells Drive, and the Ida B. Wells Founders Garden. Ida B. Wells once said, "I am only a mouthpiece through which to tell the story of lynching, and I have told it so often that I know it by heart. I do not have to embellish, it makes its own way." So I could continue all day about Michelle Duster's accomplishments, but what is clearly evident is her ancestral commitment to journalism, history, social justice activism, and the unformidable resistance and documentation of the life of Ida B. Wells and all falling victims of racial terrorism. I present to you Michelle Duster.
Thank you so much, Sharon, for that wonderful introduction. And I thank all of you for having me here. I am from the south side of Chicago, and so I traveled for about 9 hours yesterday to get here. And I'm really happy and honored to be here. So I just want to start telling you a little bit about my great-grandmother. I'm sure most of you know her story, but I'll just kind of give a real brief summary of her. She was born enslaved in 1862, Holly Springs, Mississippi, the oldest of 8 children to Jim and Elizabeth Wells, who obviously spent most of their lives enslaved. And so I'm a proud descendant of people who were enslaved, and I am their ancestor. I am my ancestors' wildest dream. So this is personal to me because this is my personal family history. My great-grandmother was the oldest of 8 children, and lucky for her, the Civil War fell on the side of freedom for my family members and millions of other people, 4 million formerly enslaved people. And so my great-grandmother grew up during Reconstruction, which lasted from 1865 to 1877. She came of age during that time, which was a time of great progress in our country's history compared to being enslaved, property of people. So she had the opportunity to become formally educated at Shaw University, which is now Russ College. Her mother went to school with her because it was illegal for enslaved people to learn how to read and write. And so her mother was illiterate, as well as many other people during that time. Over 90% of African Americans at that time were illiterate. And so my great-grandmother, because she had the opportunity to become formally educated, and she grew up in a family, her father was very politically engaged. And so she grew up during a time when she saw her father gain the right to vote as a result of the 15th Amendment, which was passed in 1870, one of the 3 amendments that were Reconstruction amendments. And so she I believe, gained her political savvy and her sense of what was right and wrong and possible because she grew up during this time period. Her father had her read the newspaper to his friends. As I mentioned, many people were illiterate, and so she, I believe, gained practice and savvy in knowing, having the opportunity to read in front of a group of people, read in front of mostly men. And so I think that gained her confidence in having the ability to do public speaking. She also realized the power of the newspapers. Unfortunately, in 1878, which was 1 year after Reconstruction ended, both of her parents died within a day of each other as a result of a yellow fever epidemic that just really swept through that part of the country, northern Mississippi, western Tennessee. And we can relate to that today, right? As we're all sitting here wearing masks. So unfortunately, she was an orphan at age 16, and she decided to become a caregiver for her 5 remaining siblings. In order to do that, she became a teacher, which is totally different in 1878 than it is now to become a teacher. During this period of time, there was a frenzy to build schools, and for people, there was a craving for knowledge, young people. There was a craving for knowledge and to become formally educated. And so she became a teacher by passing a teaching exam. And she was able to take care of her younger siblings with the help of her grandmother, who was her father's mother, who also had spent most of her time on earth enslaved. And so Ida was able to work for about a couple of years to help her family, but then her grandmother had a stroke and she ended up moving to Memphis. Ida moved to Memphis for a higher paying teaching job. While she was there, that's where she started her journalism and activism. She, on the side from teaching, she started writing for church newsletters, and then she progressed to writing for newspapers, and then she had progressed to co-owning a newspaper, the Memphis Free Speech. So she was happy. She was part of a small but vibrant middle class in Memphis. There was a middle class among African Americans who were teachers, lawyers, ministers, doctors, and so she was part of that middle class. And she was friends with a guy named Thomas Moss, who was a letter carrier, which at that time was considered to be a very prestigious job because it was a federal government job. And he and 2 other friends of his decided to own a grocery store called the People's Grocery Store, which was located on the Curve, which was right outside of Memphis. And the store did so well that the rival, the white person who owned a grocery store, who he considered their store, the People's Grocery, to be his rival, decided to get rid of the competition, literally, and trumped up a situation where the People's Grocery was attacked, and then the people who owned the grocery store defended themselves. So then, of course, they ended up being the aggressors and were arrested and ultimately lynched. This was personal to my grandmother, my great-grandmother, because these were her friends. And she decided, as a result of a previous experience that she had in 1884, where she was removed from a train, the ladies' car, and because she refused to move to the colored car, as a result of the 1881 law that had been put in place in Tennessee that made it segregated public transportation to make it, quote, separate but equal. But she was like, this is separate and unequal, and I'm not complying with this law. And she sued the railroad, but and won initially, but ultimately the situation was reversed. The ruling was reversed. It went all the way up to the Tennessee Supreme Court, and so she lost that case. And so the combination of the situation that happened with the train situation and then what happened with her friends, she felt there's no way we can get legal representation, we can get justice through a system that systematically leaves us out. So she decided to use the press as in order to have the court of public opinion. And she recognized through what happened with her friends that the South resented giving the Afro-American his freedom, the ballot box, and the civil rights law. That's a quote of hers. And she used the press. She encouraged people in Memphis to boycott white-owned stores, to boycott the streetcars, and for those who could leave, to actually just leave Memphis, where in a place where they could get no justice. And there was a mass exodus. People went to Oklahoma and several other places even farther west, all the way even out to California. And so she realized that there was power in the press and power in the truth. And that was what pushed her to become a civil rights activist, and she used her skill with journalism to affect change. Because of how powerful she was as a journalist, she was ultimately exiled from the South. Her printing press was destroyed, and her life was threatened. And she spent a little while in New York City, where she started writing even more. She wrote a series of articles that ended up being published in a pamphlet called Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in all its phases. And she started doing public speaking about what was happening in the South, this domestic terrorism. She chronicled names, dates, locations, and reasons that people were lynched. And really, in today's world, we call it living while black. Every reason you could think of was used to justify lynching. But the common narrative at that time, which led to a lot of black men getting lynched, was that they were violating white women. And that was a cardinal sin. It was a horrific idea for some white men to even consider that a black man would, quote, violate their women. And so she realized, my great-grandmother realized that was a lie. Too many times that was not even remotely the case, and she implied, based on truth, that some liaisons that happened between black men and white women were consensual. And that was an incendiary, statement to make. And so this reality has been passed down to me. I'm 3 generations removed from my great-grandmother. She died several decades before I was born. But I grew up hearing these stories. This is my truth. This is my family's truth. This is our country's truth. And some people don't want our truth to be told. They don't want people to learn about our truth. There, right now, in 2022, books are being banned in this country that tell the truth, that tell our perspective of what our relationship has been with this country for generations. There are places that people are passing individual freedom bills and a Stop Woke Act to make it so that it's wrongs to our kids and employees, so that people will not learn my truth. They will not learn my family's truth. They will not learn the perspective of millions of African Americans who are in this country right now today, who are living with this generational trauma. And the idea that making another person feel uncomfortable over historic actions by their race, nationality, or gender is going to be illegal. What are we doing in our country where some people's comfort level supersedes other people's truth? And this is what my great-grandmother was fighting about back in 1892. And we are here in 2022, still fighting. And the uncomfortable truth for some people is that over 6,500 people were lynched in this country, and counting. Those are documented. Who knows how many undocumented lynchings there were? In addition to murder at the hands of a mob, lynching is murder at the hands of a mob, extrajudicial killing. It does not have to be hanging. It can be beating. It can be all kinds of ways that people are murdered at the hands of a mob without due process of law, right? So my great-grandmother recognized that lynching was being used as a form of domestic terrorism. It was used to keep black people in a certain place in our country's society at the bottom. That's what it was being used for. A lot of times the people who were lynched were leaders in the community. They were upstanding citizens, and the message being told, which my great-grandmother documented, the message that was being told to the black community is, do not strive to be in a certain place in our society. Do not strive to have certain kinds of achievements, because if you do, you will be killed. And this is the message that we have been taught. This is what was going down. And so in order to make it so that people would be afraid to achieve, to be afraid to go for certain kinds of accomplishments because they might be killed. And this is what happened time and time again. My great-grandmother wrote not only articles, but she wrote several pamphlets. And if those of you who are interested in reading, the beauty of the fact that she was a journalist is that these writings exist today. If you read her pamphlet, The Elaine, Arkansas Riot, she chronicles not only what happened with the situation. There was a group of sharecroppers who were decided that they wanted to unionize. Is this based on power, having self-determination? This is significant because it was in 1919. So it was after World War I, and a lot of the people who were the leaders of trying to create this union were veterans of World War I. So they were asked to go overseas and fight for freedom and democracy for somebody else's country, and then come back to this country and accept second-class citizenship. These men knew how to fight. They were wearing the uniform of the United States Army to defend their own country. But then when they come back to their own country, when they come back home, they're asked to go in the back. So we all know that there was the Red Summer of 1919, which was a lot of times led by these veterans because they refused to settle for second-class citizenship of the country that was their native land that they had fought for. What about our discomfort? I grew up hearing about our discomfort, the discomfort of my great-grandmother, the discomfort of my mother, the discomfort of my grandmother. My mother grew up in Texas, in Jim Crow South. This is one generation ago. I grew up hearing about black discomfort. So why is it okay for some of us to be discomforted and other people to not have any kind of level of discomfort? We have over 1,600 Confederate tributes in this country. That includes monuments, schools, street names, other institutions that are named after Confederate leaders. Over 700 monuments to the Confederacy are in this country. That makes me uncomfortable. Why is my discomfort not considered when people are thinking about laws and bills? From my perspective, this country's history has 246 years of slavery, 12 years had a problem with a black man being in a position of power. And he was terrorized, he was taunted, and ultimately he was killed in February of 1898. And my great-grandmother was one of the people, part of a delegation, who went to visit President McKinley to appeal to him in 1898 to have a federal anti-lynching bill, to consider lynching to be a federal crime. And what her argument was that Fraser Baker was a federal employee. And if you have a federal employee who's murdered, it needs to be considered a federal crime. So over 200 attempts happened between 1900 and 2022 in order to make this legislation pass. This is part of my family's history. It's part of our history of a lot of people in this room. My brother Daniel went and testified in front of the United States Senate in 2005, 17 years ago, about this legislation. So even my generation, 3 generations after my great-grandmother, we have been involved in trying to get justice. There, from my perspective, and I work in academia, to me, what the time that we're living in is a little bit scary. We're living in a time where there's an effort to censor information. There's a time where there's an effort to censor publication and speech. So, we have this legislation that talks about what kind of language we can say, what words we can say in a classroom, what kind of materials we can use in a classroom, what kind of things we can talk about, what kind of topics we can talk about in a classroom, for fear that some people might feel uncomfortable about hearing somebody else's truth. So I really do wonder how we as a country can heal in an environment where certain people are silenced and certain people are erased, certain realities are denied, certain histories are ignored. I am here. I was born 101 years after my great-grandmother. So a century separates us. But I am still fighting for some of the things that she was fighting for. Yes, we undeniably, things have progressed since 1862. But the fact that on every metric, African Americans are at the bottom when it comes to education, when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to housing, when it comes to mortgage loans, when it comes to all kinds of different maternal health. We can just run down the list. So for anybody to say that there is not systemic racism and everything is individual person's fault is denying how our country has been structured from the beginning. And I personally refuse to just let this denial continue to happen. We have to push. We have to push for truth in order to solve these issues. It is not individual person's situation or fault if across the board there is lack of wealth. And I would argue that a whole lot of the lack of wealth in the Black community is because of this long-standing 400-year just discrediting and blocking of African American opportunity. And if you read some of the work that my great-grandmother wrote, especially that Elaine, Arkansas race riot pamphlet, she, in that piece of work, she writes down exactly how much property each of the victims owned and the dollar value at that time. So we all can look at that and calculate how much wealth it would be worth today. All of that has been lost by the descendants of those victims in Elaine, Arkansas. So I would argue that we also, in addition to having truth and reconciliation, we need reparations because it can be documented. My great-grandmother's printing press was destroyed. There are times that I wonder how much wealth my family would have if that printing press would have been allowed to grow. We could have been Hearst. Who knows what we could have been? But 3 generations ago, every single thing that my great-grandmother owned was destroyed. So this is our family. This is our country. This is our community's history. This is our country's history, and it cannot be denied. So we today, in 2002, are here to make sure that the realities of our ancestors are recognized. We will tell our truth. We will tell their truth through libraries, through archives, through museums, through monuments, murals, and historical markers. We are going to tell the truth. And some people might be uncomfortable, but we've been uncomfortable for 400 years. The National Memorial for Peace and Justice is an amazing place if you haven't been there. You can't go there and see these 4,000 columns that represent each county in our country. It might not be 4,000. It represents 4,000 victims, but there's a column for each county in our country with the names of the people who were lynched in that county. I've been there twice. And it is, I think, close to impossible to go through that, see these names, see the columns getting higher and higher and higher above your head, and not be moved by what has happened in our country, what has actually happened, the truth. My great-grandmother said, the way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. That's what we're doing today. We are turning the light of truth on the fact that Tony Champion, Andrew Ford, Alfred Daniels, and Lester Watts, and probably a whole lot of other people that we still have not documented yet, were killed for being black in this country. I really applaud the Gainesville Community Remembrance Project for all the work you're doing, and all of the other people who are involved in making sure that our truth is told, that there is truth and reconciliation in this country. And I really hope I live long enough to see reparations as well, because we need to recognize the sense of wealth loss, wealth theft that has happened in this country. And so I will just close by saying that I really appreciate you. I hope that there is more commitment in our country to actually learning the truth, to actually recognizing the truth, and to be healed by the truth. Thank you.
What a powerful speech. Thank you, Ms. Dexter, for coming to us in all this bad weather and 9 hours of travel and reminding us of some of the things. But have everyone here been to have you been to Alabama yet to the how many? Okay, that's good. I challenge everyone who haven't been, or if you've been, I think we're planning to take another trip in the fall of the year. I went, I guess, in 2017, and as she was talking about the slabs hanging, I found my great-grandfather's name on one of the slabs. And I was so upset, I started crying, and we heard all the stories, Ms. Dust, as we were growing up, but to see his name on one of those slabs was really, really moving. So thank you again for visiting our city. On behalf of the city and the county, we thank you so much, and EGI for coming. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Okay. Okay, we have we're about to close. We're going to bring Barbara Lindsay, who's going to talk about this beautiful quote over here. It has listed all the names, and the material was given to the quote, come on, Barbara, by Patricia Hill Nunn's husband. So it's very special to us.
Thank you, Evelyn. Memorial quilts are a tradition with a long history of sharing and storytelling. The Newberry quilt, which was completed last year, has already been on loan throughout the area at various schools, churches, and other public places. It is our hope and intention that this quilt will join that tradition of teaching, memorializing, and raising awareness throughout our community and beyond. The Gainesville Remembrance Quilt took its inspiration from a blend of the historic Gee's Bend quilts and the colors of African nations. It is made from a collection of fabrics that includes donations from City of Alachua Vice Mayor Shirley Green Brown, and the family of Dr. Patricia Hilliard Nunn. The quilt captures a line from the poetry by Marvin Wilson Jr., which was recited at the Gainesville Soil Collection Ceremony in February of 2021. On behalf of the Gainesville Community Remembrance Project Subcommittee, I would like to recognize the ACCRP Quilt Committee Chair, Dawn Beachy, and the many people who participated in this project. We all appreciate everyone's encouragement and enthusiastic support of this ongoing creative effort. The Gainesville Remembrance Quilt is part of a larger county-wide collaboration of many people in our communities. There are more quilts currently being planned for Alachua and Montioka Gordon. Everyone who has an interest in sewing is invited to join us. Let us continue to say their names.
Thank you, Barbara. And before everyone leaves, please look at the quilt. It is absolutely breathtaking. Okay, we're going to call the lady of the hour that's been working so hard with us, Dr. Houchin. She's our go-to person, her and Reverend Smart and Jackie Davis. Thank you.
Good morning. Between the dates of February 8th and 12th of 2001, immersed in the midst and fog of cool February days, a small, cherished group of volunteers collected soil from 6 locations across Gainesville. If you were part of that group who collected soil, would you please stand? Do we have any of those? Thank you. Thank you. Three of the sites were locations where known lynchings occurred, and 3 of the sites were symbolic, important places in the African American community. On February 21st, in a public ceremony on the grounds of the Alachua County Administration Building, this soil was transferred from galvanized buckets into the jars you see to my right. It was transferred by the descendants of the terrible crimes that happened all those years ago. It was transferred into these jars by us, the members of the Alachua County Community Remembrance Project and the Gainesville Subcommittee. It was transferred by our public servants, staff, and community members as we prayed, remember, said I'm sorry, and committed to ensuring that this blood would no longer cry out from the ground. Not on our watch. We sent one set of these jars to bear testimony to our crimes and our intentions and our hopes to the Equal Justice Museum in Montgomery, Alabama. We kept a second set of those jars here, and together we pledged to build a location to house these jars permanently that is worthy of their contents. The jars, the victims, their names, our hopes, our intentions, and our vow to remember and do better. That is the significance of those jars. To the community of the faithful that is here today, I present the jars of the departed, and we honor them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Houchins, and we want to make sure everyone go by and look at the jars with the soil. It was a very moving event when we had this done. Okay, at this time, we will have Pastor Andy and Reverend Carl Smart to come out and recognize the.
Thank you. Post-Reconstruction marker in Gainesville, the lynching in Gainesville. White mobs lynched at least 4 black men in Gainesville between 1877 and 1950 in complete disregard for the legal system and their constitutional rights. On February 17, 1891, a white mob abducted Tony Champion from his jail cell and hanged him from a tree near Northeast 6th Street. Just 6 months later, on August the 24th, 1891, a white mob seized Andrew Ford from jail and lynched him from the same tree. Law enforcement often failed to protect black people in their custody from mob violence, despite their legal obligation to do so. On November the 26th, 1896, a deputy sheriff was complicit in handing Alfred Daniels over to a white mob that hanged him and riddled his body with bullets. Facing little to no resistance, white perpetrators of racial-motivated violence were emboldened to attack black people with impunity. On March 21st, 1942, white men fatally shot a black farmer named Lester Watts in front of his wife in an attack near University Avenue. After slavery ended, lethal violence against black people intensified, and lynch mob violence emerged as a tool of racial control. Even before the 12-year period of Reconstruction ended in 1877 and the federal government withdrew their protection for black people in the South, white mobs in Gainesville lynched at least 8 black people. As in the Reconstruction era lynchings, no one was ultimately held accountable for lynching of Mr. Champion, Mr. Ford, Mr. Daniels, or Mr. Watts.
Between 1882 and 1930, Florida had one of the highest per capita lynching rates in the United States, with Alachua County ranked near the top. After the Civil War, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the United States Constitution ended slavery and extended constitutional rights to black people. Many white communities responded with violence and lynching as tools for preserving racial hierarchy, and thousands of black people were the victims of racial terror lynching in the United States. Racial terror lynching emerged as a brutal form of violent resistance to emancipation and equal rights for African Americans, intended to intimidate black people and to maintain white economic, political, and social control. Black women, men, and children were lynched for resisting economic exploitation, violating perceived social customs, engaging in interracial relationships, or being accused of crimes even when there was not any evidence tying the accused to any offense. Racial terrorism in Alachua County was promoted by many white business leaders and politicians who sought to drive down wages, deny black land ownership, and prevent black people from voting. Newspapers often justified mob violence by promoting racist stereotypes and supporting extra-legal killings. Over 350 victims of racial terror lynching have been documented in the state of Florida between 1865 and 1950, with at least 12 people having been lynched in Gainesville. Please rise if you are able as we recite the names.
Tony Champion, 1891. Andrew Ford, 1891.
Alfred Daniels, 1896. Lester Watts, 1942. Thank you. Please be seated.
Thank you, Pastor Andy and Reverend Smart. I feel a little sad now after hearing the bell and the name of those persons who were lynched unjustly. So we are here to educate and truth and reconciliation. And we have our work cut out for us. So let's just work and march until this never happens again, but it's just a different form of lynching happening today. At this time, we are fortunate to have two of our people from Montgomery, Alabama. We have Bree and Kiana. Would you come and make your remarks? And after that, we're going to ask the family of Lester Watts to join us along with our elected officials and members of this committee to unveil the marker that's right outside. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Kiana West. I'm a Justice Fellow at the Equal Justice Initiative. I'm here with my wonderful colleague, Bree Lampkin, who is a project manager at EJI, and we're very pleased that we're able to be here with you all this morning to help dedicate not the first or second or third, but the fourth marker here in Alachua County dedicated to memorializing victims of racial terror lynching. And we've been really encouraged by all the work of the Alachua County Community Remembrance Project and the way in which they've been intentional in involving communities both small and large around the county to memorialize these victims of racial terror lynching. The Equal Justice Initiative was originally founded in 1989. That's when our executive director, Attorney Brian Stevenson, came to Alabama to defend people on the state's death row. And this was just 2 years after a very troubling Supreme Court case in which the court decided that even though there was strong evidence showing racial bias in administration of the death penalty, that they would rather keep the death penalty than, and have a racist death penalty than have no death penalty at all. In fact, they said that racial bias was quote unquote inevitable. And so this was sort of the backdrop in which EJI's work began. Today, we are committed to defending everybody on Alabama's death row. Even though the murders and lynchings of victims between the end of the Civil War in 1950 that we documented are extra legal, even though even today, the executions of people are not fair, they're not just. Black defendants are much more likely to be sentenced to death, and race of the victim is among the highest predictors of the death penalty. And so there is a lot of work still to be done. In addition to our death penalty work, we also represent people who were sentenced to life without parole as children. We challenge the unconstitutional and inhumane prison conditions throughout the state of Alabama. In fact, in 2020, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the entire Alabama Department of Corrections because of the abuse and the violence that people who are incarcerated in the state face. And so we continue that work, and we also provide reentry services for our clients because we know how hard it is for someone after they're released to readjust to society and how hard it is for them to find a job or even a place to live. And so we continue that work. Of course, today we are here as part of our public history work, which began in 2008, because we realized that in order to more effectively challenge the racial injustice and economic injustice that our clients were facing, that we were gonna have to take a step back and help deepen our understanding of racial injustice and our history of racial injustice, and as Ms. Duster beautifully said, how our society today continues to be influenced and impacted by that history. And so I'm going to hand it over to Bree to talk a little bit more about our work.
Yes, hello everyone. It is really lovely to be back here in Gainesville at this really momentous moment, installing the 4th historical marker in the county. It says a lot about us. You know, what we memorialize says a lot about what we value. And if we only have, you know, tons of statues of the Confederacy and these shameful parts of our history, what does that say about us? So it says a lot that you all are here today on this rainy Saturday morning to unveil this historical marker, the incredible work that has gone into us getting to this point. And as Kiana mentioned, we have been on this public history journey because of the injustice that we've seen within the legal system, knowing that we have to have more broad conversations because, you can't just solve all these things walking into a courtroom. These are societal, these are systemic issues that we have to address before a defendant even arrives in the courtroom. And so as a part of that effort, we release a calendar every year. There are copies of it over on that table, and if you don't have a copy of the 2022 History of Racial Injustice calendar, please take one. On each day, we document racial injustice that's happened around the country in order for people to reflect on that, and to say, never again. We cannot allow this to happen again, and to have some awareness of what has happened. So we release the calendar every year. We have also put out reports. The first one is about the history of enslavement in Alabama specifically, but also around the country. We then released our Lynching in America report in 2015, which was the catalyst for the memorial that Ms. Suster mentioned, in which we document over 4,400 victims of racial terror lynching on over 800 hanging memorial monuments in that space. It is a very sacred space. I hope that those of you who haven't been able to visit will plan a trip. We also, in April of 2018, opened a museum called the Legacy Museum, From Enslavement to Mass Incarceration. And the thesis of that cultural space is that slavery evolved, that slavery did not end in 1865, that it simply evolved into what we now see in our system of mass incarceration, and how we cannot get to a place of repair and a place of justice if we don't first tell the truth. So we talked a lot about kind of how to tell that truth in the most effective way, and we know that it's in spaces like this. It's in community organizing, and that's what our Community Remembrance Project grew out of, that need and desire to have those conversations among ourselves, to talk with our county commissioners, with our mayors, with our neighbors, with the people that we know and love, and start to work toward repair and healing and justice. And so it is just really an honor to be here with you all, to see the commitment here in this county to doing that. I invite you all to go to eji.org. There's more information about our legal work that continues. There's information about our community remembrance projects, groups like you all over the country doing this important work, and kind of how we can continue to advance it. There's no end to it. And so thank you all for having us here. It means a lot.
Thank you all so much again for being here with in our county. Thanks again. And I think it would be historic if we could have some of our kids to join us for the unveiling, because this is really history. So at this time, we're going to go outside and unveil the marker. And thank you all so much for coming. There was one thing I forgot. Make sure you pick up a program. If you don't have one, they're beautifully done, and they were designed by Miss Yvette Carter. Pick up a program. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, baby. All right.
Outside.
Good spot. Thank you, man. Oh, what's up? What's up? Oh, yeah. You got me one? What's going on with you? How you doing? You got a little voice on you, see. You ready to go?
Oh, good. Okay.
Uh-huh. He just had to help me log
And
on.
I'm sorry about my phone.
Oh, no, you heard?
I thought I turned the silence off on, but I must have done it the wrong way.
That's,
Oh, and it's nice.
what? Oh, I'm just happy to be here.
I didn't know that was your quote on that.
Yeah, I just found that out like last.
Right there, sis. Go all the way back. Okay, okay. Brian, turn around. EJI's not in here. Oh, where is Brianna? Hi. Hands down. Hands down. We're taking pictures. Aaliyah, hands down. We're taking pictures. One, two, three. Thank you. You all can stay around. Sharing and sharing. What's this one? Alumni. Miss Fox, will you take one with